Years ago, in the Egyptian desert, the temperature regularly exceeded 110 degrees Fahrenheit. No electricity, no refrigeration, no air conditioning. Yet the Egyptians kept food fresh and living spaces cool, using a device so simple it seems impossible. Two clay pots, one inside the other, wet sand between them. That is it. The device is called a Zeer pot, and the physics behind it is the most underutilized cooling technology in human history. Here is what happens at the molecular level. Water molecules in the wet sand absorb thermal energy from the inner pot. When those molecules gain enough kinetic energy, roughly 40.7 centrijoules per mole, they break free from the liquid phase and become vapor. This phase transition from liquid to gas is called evaporation. The critical insight is this. Evaporation is endothermic. It absorbs heat from its surroundings. Every gram of water that evaporates removes 2,257 joules of thermal energy from the inner pot. That is an enormous amount of energy. For comparison, cooling a gram of water by 1 degree Celsius removes only 4.18 joules. Evaporation removes 540 times more energy per gram than simple temperature reduction. This is the same principle that makes you feel cold when you step out of a swimming pool. The water on your skin evaporates, pulling heat from your body at a rate of 2,257 joules per gram. Your skin temperature drops 5 to 8 degrees in under a minute. In a Zeer pot, the wet sand provides a massive evaporative surface area. Each grain of sand coated in water acts like a tiny cooling station. The porous outer clay pot allows water vapor to pass through its walls into the surrounding air, maintaining continuous evaporation. The temperature inside the inner pot drops 15 to 25 degrees Fahrenheit below ambient temperature. In dry climates, the drop can exceed 30 degrees. That means in 100-degree heat, the inside of the pot stabilizes around 70 to 75 degrees, nearly the temperature of a modern air-conditioned room. Now, here is where the technology scales up from a food storage pot to a building cooling system. In the 1970s, a building scientist named Hassan Fathi documented traditional Egyptian and Nubian architecture that used the same principle at building scale. He found homes with thick clay walls, 12 to 16 inches, that incorporated water channels inside the wall structure. Groundwater seeping through the channels evaporated through the porous clay exterior, keeping the interior 20 degrees cooler than the outside air. The thermal mass of the clay provided an additional benefit. Clay has a specific heat capacity of 0.92 kilojoules per kilogram per Kelvin. A 16-inch clay wall weighing 200 kilograms per square meter stores 184 kilojoules per degree of temperature change. During the hot daytime, the thermal mass absorbs heat slowly, preventing it from reaching the interior. At night, the cooled wall radiates stored heat back to the sky. This double mechanism, evaporative cooling plus thermal mass, provides 24-hour temperature regulation with zero energy input. The construction is straightforward. You need unfired clay bricks, also called adobe or cob. Mix local clay soil with straw and water in a 70-30-10 ratio by volume. Form into bricks using a wooden mold. Air dry for 2 to 3 weeks. Stack the bricks to create walls 12 inches thick minimum using wet clay mortar. For the evaporative cooling channel, embed a perforated PVC pipe or woven reed tube vertically inside the wall every 4 feet. Connect the bottom to a water source. Even a simple bucket with a float valve works. Gravity feeds water into the pipes, which seeps through the perforations into the clay wall. Capillary action distributes the moisture outward through the porous clay. The water consumption is surprisingly low. A 200-square-foot wall loses approximately 2 to 4 gallons of water per day through evaporation in hot, dry conditions. That is less than a single toilet flush per hour. For a standalone cooling system, not a full building, the pot-in-pot design scales beautifully. Build a double-wall clay enclosure, an outer wall of porous, unfired clay bricks, an inner wall of fired or sealed clay, with a 3-inch gap filled with sand. Keep the sand wet. Nigerian professor Mohammed Ba Abba adapted this design in 1995 for rural communities without electricity. His pot-in-pot refrigerator kept vegetables fresh for 20 days instead of 2 days without cooling. Tomatoes lasted 21 days instead of 2. Eggplants lasted 27 days instead of 3. He won the Rolex Award for Enterprise in 2000. Now let me address why this technology has been systematically excluded from modern building codes. In 1962, the Uniform Building Code, the predecessor to today's International Building Code, introduced minimum foundation requirements that effectively banned earth construction techniques. The code required poured concrete foundations with steel reinforcement, making traditional clay wall construction non-compliant in most U.S. jurisdictions. The stated reason was structural safety, but the deeper motivation was economic. The concrete and steel industries had lobbied extensively for material-specific code requirements. A house built from local clay costs $2 per square foot for walls. A house built from concrete block costs $8 to $12 per square foot. The lumber and concrete construction industry had no interest in a zero-cost competitor. In 3 states, California, Florida, and Texas, adobe construction was explicitly banned for residential use despite centuries of proven performance in earthquake zones. The Taos Pueblo in New Mexico has been continuously inhabited for over 1,000 years. Its adobe walls survived earthquakes that toppled modern buildings. The cooling industry had its own motivation. If houses could be cooled with 4 gallons of water per day instead of a $5,000 air conditioning system using $200 per month of electricity, the $130 billion HVAC market would lose a significant share of residential customers. Several countries have begun reversing these restrictions. India's Bureau of Energy Efficiency now promotes evaporative cooling walls in its sustainable building guidelines. Burkina Faso and Niger have school construction programs using pot-in-pot cooling principles. Research at Arizona State University has demonstrated modern compressed earth block construction meeting seismic codes, while providing evaporative cooling equivalent to a 2-ton air conditioner. The materials are dirt, water, and straw. The construction requires no power tools. The operating cost is 4 gallons of water per day. The temperature reduction is 15 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Ancient Egypt knew this 5,000 years ago. Your modern building code says you need a $5,000 compressor, R410A refrigerant, copper tubing, and 2,000 watts of electricity to achieve the same result that $2 worth of clay bricks accomplish with gravity and evaporation. $2 of clay, 4 gallons of water, 50 centuries of proven engineering, and your AC bill is still $300 a month?